Hi there, good very early morning, and welcome to Hostile Territory. And by hostile territory, I mean flying from Dallas-Fort Worth on any airline besides American. I had a stormy and bumpy arrival into Dallas Love Field last night, and was hoping for smooth sailing today, but that is definitely not going to be the case on this flight or ones later in the day. But that is no fault of Spirit. Spirit's check-in area is in Terminal E. Normally, I would actually go up to the check-in desk to get a boarding pass because I collect them, but this morning, I just didn't have the energy for that small dose of chaos, so I headed to security. Before we pass through though, let me welcome any of you that might be new to the channel. My name is Kevin. I'm here to give you a self-funded and honest look at some of the best, and some of the not so best, airlines and hotels in the world, which I've been bringing to you full-time for the past 4 years. Check out my hundreds of videos, scan the QR code, or click the link in the description to learn more about how I do things. This surprisingly really comfortable flight begins now. The trifecta of PreCheck, Global Entry, and Clear really is the pinnacle of American innovation in the past century. Or so is my opinion, based on the feeling I get every time I get to walk right past these lines. Spirit Airlines is kind of like the States' Ryanair. They're the butt of the same jokes, they're both true ultra-low-cost carriers, and they both have a surprising amount of connectivity and reach. Spirit began in 1990 as Charter One Airlines, flying charter services to the likes of the Bahamas, Vegas, and fancy pants Atlantic City. 2 years later, they changed their name to Spirit, and for the next 15 years or so, continued to grow at a steady clip, focusing on bare-bones ticket conditions and mostly leisure markets. In 2010, they set nightly network news on fire when they became the first American carrier to begin charging for carry-on bags, which sent shockwaves through the industry. Similar to the shockwaves that these weather alerts sent through my veins when everyone's phone started blaring all at the same time. You see, I haven't lived in the US for over 10 years, and when I did, I lived in these quaint little places called New Jersey and New York, small villages that don't really get extreme weather. We were around 10 minutes out from boarding. The airport announced the first of like 7 ground stops. And around 30 minutes later, the Delta flight next to us, also going to LA, which had been offering $1,100 for passengers to take the next flight, began boarding in anticipation of the ground stop being lifted. Well, let me tell you, they should have taken the offer. We camped out at the gate for around 2 hours, our Delta compatriots camping out in their aircraft. Our gate crew were very professional and timely with updates, and just kept stressing that the only reason that we're not boarding is because it's more comfortable to sit in the gate area than on an immobile aircraft. The plane is there, the crew is there, let's just wait until we can actually get out of here. Fair enough. We finally began boarding as the ground stop was lifted. We got on board, and then they started to load the luggage. So about carry-ons with Spirit. Don't try to sneak it on board. It's not going to happen. And you will need to pay a boatload if you need to check it at the gate. I'll get into the prices about this in a bit, but I reserved a big front seat for this flight. I need to stop this in its tracks right here and tell you a closely held personal secret. These are the most comfortable domestic first-class style seats that I've ever been in. Full stop. I wish the headrest was adjustable, but the reason they're so comfortable is because they're pre-reclined. You may be thinking, okay, so just recline every other seat, ta-da. No. Look at this seat. Look at the seating surface very carefully. Due to the pre-recline, the seat surface is angled back. I never knew my thighs weren't happy when flying in domestic first until they rejoiced in this seat. I'm 6 foot or 182 centimeters, and it's genuinely the first time I think I've ever truly had under-thigh support in a seat like this. I was worried the pre-reclined seats would feel odd, but they really don't feel reclined at all. They just feel deeper. On top of that, the seat back contour is much better than most other seats. This was the same thing that I was trying to say for those surprisingly comfortable United Economy seats that I was recently in. A decent amount of legroom as well. Let me quickly tell you about the pricing as we leave our Delta crew behind. Interesting fact, we landed in LA before they ever took off. No idea why. This day was just coming off the end of a holiday weekend, and so the fares were expensive on the day I was flying. In total, I paid a whopping $312 for this flight. The ticket was $121. Originally, I selected an exit row for $50, plus the Just For You bundle, which included a carry-on and shortcut boarding. I did want the big front seat from the jump, but at the time I was booking, it was $183 more, which just seemed ridiculously high. A few weeks before traveling though, I checked the flight and it was available for $44 more, on top of the $50 that I paid, which I thought was fair. Random date, April 16th. Here are the base fares for a morning flight from DFW or Love Field to LAX. And here's the final price adding a carry-on if it wasn't included, plus an exit row seat. My point is, Spirit is cheap, but it's not that cheap. I'll talk more about the effects of that in the air. Spirit's buy on board is solidly in the category of pricey and passable. Drinks specifically were really pricey, almost $5 for a soda. That's kind of nuts. I opted for the snack box since this is of course the snack box series. It was fine, kind of middle of the pack as far as these boxes go. Would be nice if there was more than one option though. If you're enjoying the video and would like to support the channel, there are many ways that you can do so. A quick like on the video and subscribe helps the videos with the algorithm. You could join my YouTube channel memberships to get early access to some videos and access to all of my community posts. Or you could check out my Patreon where I post the most and can help you out with any travel related questions. Whatever you do, thanks for doing it. There's of course no entertainment on board, but there is Wi-Fi available for $18, which isn't horrible for the full flight. As we cruise over the beautiful terrain, I'll mention two things. First up, the service. They were fantastic. They took everything in stride and kept us all up to date on timing since, once we were on the aircraft, we still had to wait for another 2 ground stops that took effect. The other thing is the current sad state of affairs at Spirit. Their spirit is, how shall we say, broken. Post-COVID, leisure and low-cost carriers in the US are struggling to rebound in the same way that legacy carriers simply aren't. But Spirit's current mess, we could say, wasn't solely their fault. In February of 2022, when their stock was trading at $26.39, Frontier Airlines offered to buy them for $2.9 billion. The shareholders rejected it. 2 months later, JetBlue tried to buy them for $3.6 billion. The board never even considered the offer, assuming that the government wouldn't approve a hybrid airline buying a low-cost airline, the assumption being that the higher hybrid pricing model would take over. 3 months later, JetBlue made their bid hostile, and the bid was approved by shareholders. As way too many people in the industry expected, the acquisition was blocked by the government for the exact same reasons that Spirit feared. It was blocked in January of 2024. That day, the stock dropped 47%. By November of that year, they announced the intention to file for bankruptcy protection. The stock dropped 50% again. In January of this year, Frontier offered to buy them again for $2.1 billion, which Spirit rejected. At the time of writing this, Spirit stock is trading at 62 cents. From $26.39 to 62 cents in 2 years because of unsuccessful takeovers. I'll add my 2 cents. JetBlue is a schoolyard bullying jerk that is still bitter about Alaska buying Virgin America, and their original founder creating a new airline in the US which has already turned a profit, and finding a viable way out of the hole that they dug for themselves, they've decided to drag others down with them in an attempt to fix things by buying things. My guess is Spirit will come out on the other side of this, but JetBlue will find themselves in a similar position in some years if they don't focus on their own reinvention. And with that rosy assessment, enjoy the approach into LA. This quick flight was full of surprises, but I really do hope that Spirit finds their way out of it. Whether we want to admit it or not, the US needs airlines like Spirit. If Spirit and Frontier and Allegiant and all of those airlines that everyone likes to crap on every day disappear, guess who's going to be doubling the airfares? So I really do hope that you enjoyed this trip report today. If you did, please be sure to click that like button and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out on my twice weekly videos. I'll see you next time from Puerto Vallarta. No, that's not a typo. As always, thanks for watching until the end.